p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. This is a public hearing, and we're the Putnam County Planning Commission. We're the designated local planning agency for the county as prescribed in Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes, and we function under the authority of Article 11 and 12 of the Putnam County Land Development Code. The primary responsibility of the commission is to serve as an advisory body to hear and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on matters related to provisions and proposed amendments to the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan and the Putnam County Land Development Code. The members of this board will review each application and make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners at the next regularly scheduled meeting on August 23rd, 2023. They'll have one between now and then. Procedurally, we will call each case by name and number. A member of staff will briefly explain to us the nature of each request. We will then take comments from the applicant or their representative, followed by any public comments concerning the application. Please direct all comments, statements to the board and not to other people in the audience. Before speaking, we will ask each person to be recognized, come forward to the lectern, and identify his or herself by name and address. After all persons wishing to speak have been heard, we will entertain a motion from the board. The motion will be voted on by the board members and become our recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will make the final determination regarding the application. All applicants have the right to withdraw their request at any time during the application process. The following cases were advertised as being considered at today's meeting, but will not be heard as a request from the applicant. PUD 23-000001, East River Estates. If the applicant chooses to have these cases heard at a later date, the case will be re-advertised in accordance with the Putnam County Land Development Code. Would like to ask each member of the board if they have had any ex parte communication with either applicants, people that might be speaking for or against the proposed changes, or with an agent of the applicants. Are there any ex parte communications that we need to tally? Any conflicts of interest that need to be brought before the board at this time?
I do, on the boats case.
Okay, are you filling out the paperwork that's incumbent upon that?
I can.
Okay, we'll get that for you.
Okay.
So you're going to recuse yourself from the second
Yes.
case? Okay, all righty. We do have a code of ethics that we ascribe to. As members of the Putnam County Planning Commission, we pledge to come to meetings prepared for the items on the agenda, willing and ready to listen carefully and courteously to make informed decisions based on the facts presented and what we feel is in the best interest of the people and businesses of Putnam County. We will refrain from unnecessary interruptions and will be appreciative of and respectful toward applicants, members of the staff, and other members of this commission. We will support the decisions made by the majority and will be fair and objective in all that we do as members of the Putnam County Planning Commission. The first case to be heard today is rezoning 23-000005. And Ms. Sims, I believe you're up.
Thank you very much. The application is for a rezoning from Robert Cartwright. The parcel is a 5.33 acre parcel at 1950 County Road 308. The request is to rezone from commercial retail, or C2, to commercial general, or C3, to allow for the parking of boats and recreational vehicles, or RVs. The 5.33 acre parcel is located at the northeast intersection of County Road 308 and County Road 309. It's a combination of rural center and rural residential future land uses surrounding the property. The current zoning designation of commercial-2 C2 does not allow the parking of boats and RVs and would be required to rezone to commercial general C3. This portion of County Road 308 and County Road 309 is a mix of agriculture, or ag, commercial retail, C2, commercial light, C1, and residential mixed R-2 zoning. That is the aerial view of the property, the future land use, the zoning, The current future land use is rural center, which is compatible with all commercial zoning designations and the proposed commercial general C3 zoning district. Per policy A.1.9.3.A.3.C, rural center land use allows for neighborhood commercial and community commercial uses. The current commercial retail C2 zoning does not allow for the parking of boats or RVs. Heavy vehicle parking is not a listed use within the LDC. However, pursuant to LDC Section 45-71, uses that are not listed may be allowable within a zoning district when it is determined by the planning director that the proposed use is similar to other uses allowable within the zoning district. Heavy vehicle sales and service is allowable as a special use within the C3 district. Staff assessed that parking of heavy vehicles was less impactful to surrounding development than the repair and servicing of them, and therefore would be an allowable use within the C3 zoning designation. Staff is recommending approval of the zoning designation from commercial retail, C2, to commercial general, C3, as it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and complies with all applicable procedures and requirements of the LDC.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Yes, sir. Turn your mic on.
In CT zoning, can they use get a special use permit for this same type of use?
Chair, if I may address the question, I'm looking right now, and the answer to that is no.
Okay.
A special use permit would not permit the storage of recreational vehicles, heavy vehicles, et cetera, in C2 zoning district.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, is the agent or the owner here? Mr. Kennedy, what would you like to add to what Ms. Sims has already told us?
I don't know that I need to add anything unless you have questions for me or the applicant. I think, we
Are there any questions?
can't argue with staff's recommendation.
And this includes the entire corner, right?
Correct,
Including the residential?
correct.
Okay,
Well, there's a residential structure there now. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
okay. Will it be used for this purpose or be a part of this use?
Potentially as a caretaker residence, but there's no plans to change it presently, but there's also, other ideas being explored for the property in addition to the storage of RVs and boats, outdoor storage and RVs and boats. So.
Let me ask a question, all three of you, any of you can answer this. What other types of use would C3 allow?
I think I have that here.
Madam Chair, I also have that answer, and it's a long list, so just stop me when you've heard enough. Retail sales general, retail sales food, services, office, club, commercial recreation and entertainment, indoor and outdoor, lodging, cultural, civic, religious facilities, emergency services, child and adult daycare centers, passenger vehicle sales, rental and service, excluding auto body repair shops, overnight recreation, recreational vehicle and boat sales and services, portable building, display and sales, mini warehouses, hospitals, overnight recreation parks. That's all allowed by right. Would you like the special use permit allowances?
Anybody want to hear the special use permit? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions anyone have of staff? Okay, anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Kennedy?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
All righty, and we'll bring it back to the, Tom?
One question.
You want to turn your mic on?
On that property, there's a mobile home that's been there probably for almost the better part of a year.
Mhm.
It's a very large mobile home. It's about 65 by 70 feet. Is that presently being used, and will that be, is it a permitted trailer right now, or is it just sitting there?
I can't speak to that, Mr. Cartwright.
Please come to the microphone and give us your name and address.
Robert Cartwright, 127 Tennessee Avenue, Crescent City. That unit will be moving. It's not being lived in or used. It's just, it was parked there. I don't want to say by mistake. We're trying to get that put on a lot. The lot I want to put it on needs a variance to put it on.
Okay.
It's been time consuming, so I want to get it gone.
The reason I ask, it's been there almost a year.
It has, yes, sir.
It's got tie downs, but there's no septic tank, there's no water or anything hooked up to it.
No, sir. It was just backed in there and set.
that's where it's
and
at.
it's moving on. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And have you filed for that variance?
Yes, ma'am. I've hired the lady that's going to file for it. It is not in the office. But
Okay.
yes, ma'am. I've talked to Brenda Gallo about taking care of that for me.
Okay, do you have any idea what the timeline is on that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I think soon. Her husband passed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think soon.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Other questions of the board?
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And Patrick, I didn't get you to give your name and address. I'm sorry. Go ahead. you
Patrick Kennedy, 673 Third Avenue, Willaca, Florida.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the board for motion.
I've got a question
Thank you.
for the
Is
board.
there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this particular application? Okay, does that help? Would you like to speak? Well, if you would come to the microphone and give us your name and address, and then
This is the meeting for the Putnam County Boulevard and East River Road.
that particular case has been withdrawn at the present time by the applicant.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
That case has been withdrawn by the applicant for this meeting. So it will not be handled today, and we don't know for sure when it will be rescheduled.
Well, when did they know this?
This happened in the past week during the time since it was advertised, and we announced that at the very beginning of the meeting. Pardon?
I said, you would think that it would have been in the paper or something.
Well, the advertisement went out before the decision was made for this case to be withdrawn, and that's why we mentioned it at the very beginning of the meeting, that the applicants have a right to withdraw a case at any time. And this particular case was withdrawn.
Well, how long is this going to be drug out?
We don't have a definite date certain on when it will be brought back to the board.
Well, my question to you all, y'all are county commissioners, right?
No, ma'am, we're members of the Planning Commission.
Anybody in their right mind spend $300 and something thousand for a piece of property unless he knew for sure that he was going to be able to put trailer parks on there?
Well, that's a question we can't answer at this
I
time.
brought this up in the last meeting, and of course, he couldn't answer it.
Right now, there's no way we can address that case because it's not on the docket for today. When it comes up,
I'm sure you all have discussed it at one point or another.
it did come before the board and it was tabled.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to speak either for or against this particular case that's in Fruitland, Georgetown area? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Aaron. I'm still rusty. Let's bring it back to the board for a motion and discussion.
I've got a question
Okay.
for us at the board. This is the entranceway to both Fruitland and Georgetown.
And potentially
Right now,
Willaca.
we just approved within the last year a park that can park boats and motorhomes right down on County Road 309, right next to the post office. We have another one in Willaca. I'm just questioning the use of it in that property, because once we give this zoning and change it, it opens this thing up to a whole bunch of different type of projects that's going to go on that corner. And I only worry about the concern of the appearance of what it's going to be a year or two or three from now, if it doesn't become a trailer, a boat park or a trailer park. Almost anything can go there, and that area is a very, very low trafficked area, and it's strictly residential aside from a gas station and residential right now, and a handy way.
There are a couple of restaurants in that area, too.
Yeah, well, there's a few restaurants on 309. I just question, what if? I know we can't decide that. It's all up to the owner, but once we grant this zoning, it opens it up to probably 50 different types of operations that can go on that property. So I'm just looking down to the future.
And the case is, once we designate a land use and designate a zoning area, that stays with the property. It is not specific to a particular use, it's just particular to a zoning category.
Question through the chair to the attorney. Is there any way to limit what can go there at this board? If we want to change the zoning to C3,
No,
can we say only for the use of storing mobile homes and boats?
no, sir, you need
Okay.
to confine yourself to what the application says.
I
and what they're
understand.
trying to
That
do.
was my question. Once it's there, it's there. Cannot be changed, okay.
Mr. Hafner?
That's why I asked the question a minute ago about whether or not it could be done with a special use permit.
But I-
Because special
that's what I
use
was
doesn't
asking.
run with the property, right?
No.
Special use would just run with that particular use.
Right. Anything else to come, any other questions the board has? Speak to the microphone, please. I know, it's your nemesis. Turn it, the front one. Now bring it down. There you go.
This is for Patrick. Or Bobby, both of you. Your intention is to do the storage, correct?
Correct.
If we were to give you a PUD, and that would sort of hone it in for that storage, would that cause you any heartburn?
Yes.
Okay.
Presently, there is a piece of the property that's being looked at for a retail purpose, which is, would be allowed in C3 and C2 for that matter, but it would just create significant confusion. So in that regard, I do think if you look at what's allowed in C3, it's community commercial. And your rural center, future land use category specifically considers community commercial appropriate. It is a major intersection. To address your concerns around development, when it comes time to development, permits will have to be pulled, and your development standards, land use, landscaping, setbacks, site design requirements will all have to be met. So it's going to have to look and act like your code wants it to at that location. So I think there's further protections down the road if you're concerned what's going to end up looking like. I think the list of uses, while it sounds long, is typical commercial uses at a major intersection, which this essentially is the major intersection for South Putnam, Georgetown, Fruitland area.
You mentioned that there's a piece of the property being looked at for retail. Is that going to involve a lot split?
Eventually. It's not set in stone. There's negotiations ongoing, and it's not certain it's going to happen.
I do not have a contract from those people,
Right.
and truly who they are, I'm not at liberty to speak about what
Certainly.
they're doing, but it fits that area. It's similar, and they've made an offer, I've made a counter, but we're trying to be truthful that there's more going on, that we can't just take a PUD or something.
Are you looking at the entire
No, ma'am.
parcel, or are you looking at subdividing it?
1.63 acres of that parcel.
Okay, and you've not filed for any kind of lot split request or
No, ma'am.
anything like that?
No, ma'am.
They have been talking to staff about what it takes, the process involved in that. But again, no formal applications have been made because there's no deal, as they say, at this point. So, but a PUD, I think, would be overkill for this situation. And a costly-
PUD is mainly for multi-use
Yeah,
purpose.
I don't think it's a good fit. I think you can be assured C3 uses, when you look at the list, if you pay attention to what it says, it's community commercial. It's not industrial. It's not C4, which allows a little bit more intense commercials. It's not industrial. It's community level services that are provided at that location. So.
Okay, thank you, sirs. Anything else from this end of the board down here? Nope. Okay. Do I have a motion to either approve or disapprove this application?
I'll make a motion that we approve REZ 23-00005 as it is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan.
Okay. No further discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
We have one opposed and everybody else aye. So the case has been approved. It will go before the Board of County Commissioners on August the 23rd. And in the meantime, please work with staff on anything else that's going to be considered for this piece of property, a lot split, or anything else that's going to be needed. Thank you very much. All right. At this time, I'll ask for case number SD 22-400, and Ms. Sims, I believe you're up again.
Thank you very much. The applicant is Mary Virginia Burnshead, and the agent is George Young Esquire. The request is to create a 2-lot Type 1 subdivision. It is located at 158 State Road 20, Palaca. The proposed subdivision name is Moats Family Subdivision. The parcel was purchased by Mrs. Burnshead in April of 1986. The parcel is roughly 89.30 acres. The applicant intends to divide the lot to create 2 more parcels, making 3 lots total. Lot splits may only split off 1 lot. Therefore, a Type 1 subdivision is the minimum available option for their goals. Here is the proposed subdivision, the aerial view of the property, the zoning district, the future land use designation, the flood zones, and the wetlands. The proposed lots adhere to the minimum residential density requirements of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, Policy A.1.9.3.A.2.B. The proposed lots meet and exceed the minimum dimensional requirements of the R-1 and Ag zoning districts stipulated by LDC Section 45-501. The proposed lots meet the minimum road frontage requirements stipulated by LDC Section 45-632. The proposed subdivision is considered a de minimis impact and should not have an impact on the level of service for Moats Road. Since no internal improvements are proposed, the drainage requirements of a Type 1 subdivision can be waived by the BOCC. Staff recommends approval of the Moats Family Type 1 subdivision, as the request is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan, and is compatible with surrounding land uses and zoning districts, and is consistent with the requirements of the Putnam County Land Development Code.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions of the board for Ms. Sims? Okay, hearing none. Is the applicant or the applicant's agent here? Mr. Young, would you like to come forth and speak? Please identify yourself.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is George Young, 222 North 3rd Street, Palaca, Florida, 32177.
Thank you.
I guess unless there's any questions, I don't know that I have much to add. I could give you a lot of background and a lot of history, but it'd probably bore you.
Are there any questions of Mr. Young?
I do want to clarify one thing, if I may, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
Mr. Baker, we are talking about a subdivision just for those 2 lots, right? Not the entire 89 acres.
That is correct, sir.
Okay. There was just some wording at the beginning of the staff report that kind of indicated you wanted to include the whole thing, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir, the plat only includes 2 lots.
Then I really don't have much more to add unless there's something I can answer.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Zach, with my understanding, if we have a subdivision for 2 lots, that's not a lot split for the remaining part. They can do whatever they want to with the remaining part, correct?
So the situation with that property is prior to 2003, one of the lots was separated off. Not sure if it was a lot split, didn't really look into it because it occurred before 2003. And then sometime along the line, there was a lot split for the store after 2003, the farm and feed store, am I correct? So the farm and feed store took up their first lot split, and because of the way that our land development code is written and the comprehensive plan, they wouldn't qualify for a family density or a family member subdivision. And because it was split, the only way to further divide was through a type 1 subdivision. So the property owner now wants to convey 2 lots. I know one is to a grandchild, and then the other is, some other family member. So this is the path that they had to go through. It's very similar to the Kickin' It Ranch subdivision we heard at the beginning of this year.
All right, my question goes back, I understand the 2 lots, there's no problem with that. Let's say I'm the owner now and not these people. I've got 80-some-odd acres left, correct? Can I split those 84, 85 acres? Or can I come back and get a subdivision for that? Or, I mean, if I want to sell that off to everybody in this room gets a piece.
The remainder of that chunk, sorry to interrupt, but I see where you're going with it. The remainder of the chunk, the 80-some-odd acres, in order to further divide, you'd have to do another platted subdivision.
Okay. So in other words, the 80-some acres is a chunk of land that cannot be divided, but it can be subdivided with a plat,
It can be divided through a plat
through a plat.
Yeah.
That's the only method.
with our current regulations and standards, yes.
And your people are happy with that?
They're not happy with it, but this is the only route we have. Until there's an update to our,
I just want you to be aware that
and I
for you to
appreciate
do
that.
what you want to do, to get all them chairs to be a lot, you got to come back and get a subdivision.
Yes, sir. We understand that. We're
As
not
long as
happy about it.
everybody's happy, I'm happy.
We're not happy about it, but we understand that.
To accept it.
It's acceptable. And preparing that the updated land development code will allow for a little more common sense use of 90 acres of property. See, so I'm
Well,
counting
actually,
on you.
land development code is what we're going to be looking at. Yes.
So, am I incorrect? So it's
All right.
acceptable, we understand, and putting a lot of faith and hope, which is not always a good idea, but I trust we'll get the new land development code better.
We'll be working on that. It's going to be a long process.
Don't have to use 2 bow ties for that, Mike.
We appreciate it.
Anything
Anything
else?
else you'd like to bring before us, George?
No, Madam Chair, I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your being here. All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak either for or against this proposed subdivision? Okay, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for a motion and discussion.
So moved that we go ahead and approve the application.
Okay. Tom has moved that we approve the application as presented. Is there a second? Okay. We got that second then. Discussion.
This is, as we all know, one of the problems with the common sense of the land development code. The lot size should definitely be considered the parent lot size, I'll say. Anyway, we all know that, so I know staff is, we'll all work on that.
This will be floated to the surface, I can assure you, and we'll be addressing it. And you're more than welcome to come be a part of that discussion when that happens. That's going to be a long meeting. But once we get into that. Mike?
Yes, Madam Chair, as I understand it, Mr. Joe has recused himself from this matter.
Yes. Mr. Froelich has definitely recused himself for conflict of interest. All right. Hearing no other questions or no other items of discussion, I'll bring it up for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Step 1, although it's a baby step, is now approved by this board. It will go before the Board of County Commissioners on August the 23rd. So we thank you very much for being here, and we appreciate your understanding of the tediousness of what we have to do. Thank you. All right. Is there any old business to bring before this board? Leslie, thank you so much for all that you've done in presenting these 2 cases. And if you want to sit down, we'd let you.
I would love to.
Thank you. Is there any old business that needs to come before this board?
I got a question for all of us. You've heard me on a few occasions vote no on some of these zoning changes. But there's a particular reason. With many other cities and counties, what they've done is have a special exception rule for zoning. When we change the zoning on a piece of property, we change it forever. Sometimes we change a piece of zoning right in the middle of no man's land, which may have been a residential plot, but because we hear a nice person come forward and say, we're going to do this. And it's happened now at least 3 or 4 times since I've been on this board. And on those occasions, I worry because let's say the previous thing we just passed with the mobile home that's been there over a year illegally. It just sat there. It's not a pretty thing. It's just sitting on a 45-degree angle right off County Road 308 at the corner of 309. Now, the owner says they're going to do a nice development. We have no knowledge of that. But in this particular area, it bothers me because it's the main 2 intersections of 2 communities, which are basically residential, aside from a few restaurants, a gas station, and now a Circle K or whatever it is. I think in our zoning ordinances somewhere, we should come up with, when we start doing this review, again, of the master land use plan, to have a special exception clause where we can change zoning for a period of time certain. And if that developer doesn't perform, it just reverts back to what it was. What it does, it stops speculators from coming in and buying some things off the courthouse steps because it's a tax thing. Changing the zoning with a nice presentation, which happened next to the post office down on County Road 309. They're going to put a water treatment plant for the whole area for the St. Johns River. Well, that's the most uncommon place to put anything commercial, on a curve with a church, a cemetery, and a post office. But we approved it. But in those cases, I voted no for the same reason. It's wrong, it's speculation, and it changes the zoning for that whole street, which is a main street in South Putnam. So maybe just something to think about when we get into this revision on the master land use plan. I'll call it old business, call it new business, but I'm going to bring it up then. Maybe we can come up with some kind of an ordinance that can change the way we just issued blanket zoning changes with some kind of a special exception. It is done in other cities and in other counties, and it's for time certain. Now, how that's got to be done, it's a legal question, a planner's question, but the theory behind it is it protects everybody. Protects us from looking silly to residents that come in and say, why the hell did you do this? Excuse my language. But it's the truth. We don't know when we approve these things, and we recommend it to the county commission, and they don't know. They usually take the word of what 7 or 8 members say, because that's why we're here. So we say yes, they approve it. 2 years down the road, it's completely changed, and you can't reverse it. So just something for thought. I wanted to mention it. Excuse my voice. But
Well,
for
Tom,
for the future.
I have a question for you. I have a request of you.
Yeah.
Would you get with Mr. Perry and with Zach or Joe or whomever and research this, and when we get ready to talk about that section of the Land Development Code, bring us some examples of other cities and other communities, how they do this,
Yeah,
so we can have that.
I can bring some up. I mean, I was down in South Florida. We've done this all the time just to avoid getting embarrassed down the road.
Right.
Because we're not mind readers. We can only go by what we hear.
But if
I'll
you
do
would,
that.
if you could
Thank you.
bring some examples for us, because one of the questions we ask when we want to change something is, well, what do other counties do?
That's right.
And that would be really good if you would lead that part of the discussion. That would be great.
We'll get it started.
Okay, thank you. Any other old business?
Susan, I got one. I don't know if this falls under old business or not.
Whatever.
But the mobile home situation here on East River Road, when and if that comes back to this board, I would ask staff to make sure that the signage is appropriately put along the boundaries of that property. Because right now, there's 6 signs on that property, and they would all indicate to you that that entire development is from a tree line about 1/3 of the way back to Putnam County Boulevard. It's very deceptive. The signage should go all the way along East River Road to let all those residents across the street know that they're being affected by that.
Okay. Staff, I think you can handle that. And I know one of the problems we have, especially this time of year, is it rains and the wind blows and our signs go to Alachua County. Right, they have a tendency to fly away. And I know that signage is expensive, and I know it's difficult to put up, and sometimes you have to wade through, ditches and everything else, and you wear your snake boots and whatever. But I don't know if there's any other kind of signage that we could come up with that wouldn't be so volatile. But I know I drove a long way down Moats Road today before I saw a yellow sign. And I had to finally go backwards to get to the property that we just did because St. John's Avenue is closed. And so, and I've been out of pocket for a while, so I just, had to backtrack to Moats Avenue. But signage is very important. It's crucial to the neighborhood. Now, I know we send out letters to anybody within, a 500-yard range, 300-yard range of the property lines, and that's important. But this is a residential area, and like many places, like out in Georgetown, Fruitland, there are 3 signs out there. They're perpendicular to the road, and that was easier to see. I like the yellow signs, but if there's anything you all can explore that, I don't know, something like they do with building permits perhaps, where you have a plastic sheet, you slip something behind it that can give you some kind of permanency, but you can also change it out down the road. Just my 2 cents worth.
Big Ziploc bags.
Humongous, they make them. They make them. So, anything else that could be construed as old business?
I just have a question to staff. I was under the impression as of 24 hours ago that staff pulled the one where we're talking about, the River Road, and then the applicant delayed it for another month. Now, that's not what I heard in here today.
Now, I'm going to ask you because that might have involved some ex parte communication.
Well, he's right there.
Go ahead, Zach. Did you speak with staff about that, or did you speak?
Brian and I were in a meeting together, yes.
Okay, all right.
So that application's been pending for a while now. And Joe no longer works with Putnam County, so I took over the application. After the revision was sent in and the request was advertised and signs were placed, the applicant submitted a revision that would ultimately change the staff report and how the advertisement would look. So in speaking with the applicants and their agent, we asked if we could postpone so that I had the benefit to thoroughly review the request. At that point, we did push it to 1 month from when it was supposed to be heard. And since the agent has come back to us and said we want to push it for 2 months. So
That's okay.
we're at this point, we don't want to advertise, we don't want to notice, we don't want to do anything until we need to in order to comply with state statute, because we don't know if it's going to change again.
And that's perfectly acceptable, and we appreciate your putting that caution flag up or that caution sign up and slowing down on it, because this is a case that needs to have thorough review, and everybody needs to have a thorough understanding of it. So I don't think there's any problem with staff making that call or with the agent making that call or with it being a combination. So I don't see a problem with that. In fact, I applaud you for doing that. So thank you very much, Zach, and we appreciate your staying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, anything else to come before the board? Any new business? I would ask that we review the minutes of the June 14th meeting, and if there are any changes to it. Now, the changes that were sent out are the minutes that were sent out to everyone. There was a change in one of the case numbers, and in the final copy of the minutes that Aaron will sign as having chaired that meeting, that has been changed and remedied. So you might have noticed that to bring it up. Is there anything else in the minutes that you would like to see changed or amended? I defer to those of you who were here.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for approval and a second. Can the person who's going to sign on make that motion? Can she make the motion to approve the
Is she
minute?
signing it?
Yes.
Yes, I believe she can.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. All those in favor of the minutes as approved, as revised?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. You may sign those minutes, Madam Vice Chairman. All righty. Our next meeting will be in August, or We do have cases coming up in August. We'll see you again in 4 weeks. Okay, that's fine. And Brian, can you give us any indication on where we are with initiating the revision to the Land Development Code?
So we have met multiple times on it, and it is a process that is a large document that has not been updated.
In years.
And so the staff is working diligently on it. We haven't necessarily set a date. I would like, that's kind of the next thing we're going to set. Okay, this is when we want to get it completed
Right.
by. So we're trying to do a red line. It is a process because there's a lot that is not currently at the state. There's
Right.
a lot of change that are happening. So
Yeah.
it's a large document.
And we'll need to go through it too as a commission, so. Listen, okay, an ideal date, but we can't lock you in stone. I mean, you've got a staff in flux, and you've got a lot of things that are pending, that a lot of things are happening in Putnam County. And I'm really glad that a lot of things are happening in Putnam County. And I'm glad that we can talk about these things and make logical decisions. And I think everybody's point of view on this situation is good, and I concur with Mr. DeSantis, because once you put that out there, you've got anything that can come in there. So let's be reasonable for yourselves. Do not set yourself a date and then set yourself up for failure. Because the biggest thing we need right now is for planning and development services to be a success. And if it takes an extra 6 months, I'll face the music with the Board of Commissioners. Okay? And I don't mind talking with them. In fact, I plan on it pretty soon. And I will defend you and say, listen, there's only so much blood you can squeeze out of a turnip, and these guys are working as hard as they can. And Leslie, I know it's been an incredible help to have you here this summer, because I can tell you understand what's going on. And congratulations on being admitted to the Levin School of Law. I think that will be a great fit for you. So, anything else to come before the board for the good of the order?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I will not be here next month.
Okay.
The staff knows already, but
All right.
I'll let you know.
That's fine. I appreciate your telling me. And I appreciate the indulgence of this board. I've had a year, and but I have come through that year, and I'm stronger than I was when I went into it. And I'm back. This time I mean it. Unless somebody comes up and says we got to do something else, and I will probably kick them. So, and I've got titanium to do it with now, so they might be in trouble. But anyhow, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate your coming. Anybody is welcome to attend this meeting, and anybody's welcome to bring anything before this body. And I can understand the angst of the lady who spoke earlier. This has been a long process, and that's been kicked around, and the can's been kicked down the road. But we want to do it right, and we want to get it done the right way. So, staff, thank you for making those decisions. All right. Hearing no complaints, it's 4:43. This meeting is adjourned. You're out of here.